as John was saying, Damon Hill alongside him on the front row of the grid. Michael Schumacher qualified third after a remarkable final lap effort virtually right at the end of qualifying, and Eddie Irvine joins him on the second row. Mika Hakkinen and Jonna Lacey, fifth and sixth on the grid. Then Mika Salo, his best ever qualifying performance, seventh. Gerhard Berger, eighth. Heinz-Harald Frentzen dropped down to ninth. A bit disappointing for him, the man who was third after the wet session on Friday. And rounding out the top 10, Rubens Barrichello. Then Johnny Herbert, disappointing down in 11th place. He had a spin at the end of yesterday's session, did some damage to the car as well. Gianni Morbidelli, 12th. Luca Badoa in 13th place, the fastest of the customer Ford ED-engined cars. And Jos Verstappen in an excellent 14th place, the best ever qualifying performance for the Syntex team. And they've actually managed to get both cars in the top 20. 15th, Izukio Katayama, 16th, Pierluigi Martini, and down in 17th, the second of the McLaren Mercedes, Mark Blundell, not having a great day yesterday. Olivier Panis and Aguri Suzuki, well, they find themselves 18th and 19th, disappointing for the Ligier team. And as I say, 20th place, Domenico Schiaparella in the second Syntex. Then it's Carl Wendlinger in 21st place, Andrea Montermini, 22nd, Bertrand Gachot, 23rd for the two Pacific Fords together, virtually on the grid. Then it's Roberto Moreno and Pedro Diniz in the two 40 Fords, and the last man on the grid for the Argentine Grand Prix will be Taki Inoue in the footwear cars.
Well, just getting a glimpse of this Buenos Aires circuit on Sunday morning, and more or less a dry line, but you do see still damp patches, and it's not just damp patches, it's at the side of the track where the water has been lying, and it's forming its own little reservoirs around the track. Those areas are going to take a little longer to dry up. The majority of cars have gone out on this opening lap on what I call sticker tires, fresh tires, because most teams have got plenty of new sets, but what they don't want to do is go into the race without having at least the majority of those sets being run. They may well hold back one set in the event of an emergency, but they want to get as many sets of tires checked out and ensured that they are, in terms of performance, balance, and just overall condition, ideal for this afternoon. Should it be dry, and that's something we are not sure of, because all around here the weather looks very, very threatening. We've got low cloud, we've got a misty sort of rain. You can barely feel it, but it's there. The humidity is 90%, and weather could change literally at any moment.
We actually had around 7 hours of solid rain yesterday. At the end of qualifying, the rain just came down in buckets, and it continued that way all the way through to 9 o'clock last evening. There have been floods in Buenos Aires. It's made all the news stories on television and in the newspapers as well. So it really is not typical weather conditions here in Argentina at this time of year.
Nonetheless, at 6:30 this morning, when we were trying to get into the circuit, crowds, massive crowds turning up for the return of Grand Prix racing to a country which traditionally produced thousands and thousands of spectators. Last race, of course, back in 1981, 14 years on, revised circuit. None of the drivers here this weekend raced here in 1981, so it's completely new. And one of the things I think we should pay a great deal of attention to at the start of the Grand Prix is when the light goes to green and that charge down into the first corner, now a much tighter right-hand corner than the previous circuit used to have. No one really knows what's going to happen, and inevitably everybody will rush down, and particularly the mid and back of the field, they have to be very, very prudent, very careful that they don't overrun and set off a chain reaction. That's always a problem on a circuit in use for the first time, and in Argentina it's going to be no different.
Taking a look at Rubens Barrichello, the man who qualified down in 10th position. It was a good day, though, for the Jordan Peugeot team, with Eddie Irvine matching his best ever previous qualifying with a 4th position on the grid.
Yes, and Rubens Barrichello this morning said that he's really had a pretty miserable season so far. He hasn't had a good run at any time in any of the sessions or in any, well, Brazil was the only Grand Prix to date. And you can see that that little bit of pressure is beginning to take a little bit of the pleasure or the joy that Rubens normally brings to a conversation. He's more serious. His face is not smiling as much. He's looking for a good result here this weekend. He's got a teammate on the second row of the grid, and while Rubens Barrichello is pleased for the team, he's disappointed that he isn't on that second row of the grid as well.
The man who set the fastest fastest time in this warm-up so far is Jos Verstappen, the man who's qualified in 14th place in the Simtek Ford, and that really is such a good fillip for the team after a very difficult start to the season in Brazil, and now having got their best ever qualifying position from the young Dutchman.
If we look at the times that we saw